Hello, my lovely human, and welcome back to Women When Fueled. Today's guest is someone who radiates magic, wisdom, and authenticity. It's Stephanie Sauvé Bouge. Stephanie is a wave of energy in a tiny but mighty package, supporting those around her and feeling brighter, lighter, and more embodied in their true selves. She's part DJ, part artist, part embodiment coach, part podcaster. She's truly a force of nature. If you've ever met her, you know that it's easy to get swept away by her way with words and the way she holds space for deep transformation. Our conversation about perfectionism could not have started in a more ironic and perfectly imperfect way. I had a brilliant idea that morning to use micellar water instead of dry shampoo on my slightly greasy roots. Thanks, Instagram. Which left me feeling really insecure about my hair. Meanwhile, Stephanie was caught in her own spiral, worried about our start time. The universe has a funny way of making sure that we walk our talk, and this was the perfect setup for a conversation about embracing imperfection. Before we dive in, a quick note. Women When Fueled is for entertainment and connection purposes only and is not meant to replace professional advice or your lived experience. Episodes may include light conversational cursing, which might not be suitable for all environments. Please do what you may with this information to advise your listening experience. Today, Stephanie and I explore lots of things, but including removing the badge of honor we wear for liking ourselves the least, how healing is an iterative process, holding our struggles lightly, recognizing life's difficulties as part of our personal curriculum, and the quiet rebellion of choosing authenticity over perfection. This episode is packed with laughter, love, and practical wisdom to support you in embracing your perfectly imperfect self. So let's dive in. Welcome to Women When Fueled. The proposed topic is the power of embodied creativity and how to flow through perfectionism. And I would love if we could start with not expecting your journey to be linear, because someone could look at you and think like where you are in this space on this timeline right now, wow, Steph has arrived. Steph is this glowing golden ball of abundance energy and I want it. And
I love that. I love that for the people that think that
I always have. Like, I remember sitting next to you during New Year's Evolution, and I got to sit next to you and whisper. And I was like, holy crap. I am sitting with the cool kids. Like, because I was so new to the space, and I was like, oh my. And you're like, do you want to borrow some of my pens? I'm like, do I want to borrow a pen? Yes, you goddess. And just that it hasn't been linear. It wasn't like an elevator ride to the top, but the importance of a growth mindset in your own journey.
Well, thank you. First of all, I'm receiving all of that into my heart because me, like everybody, has my own version of how I show up in the world. And I can acknowledge that I've done a lot of work and that I've grown a lot. If I'm being honest, I think I have to own that, you know? And if you peer behind the curtain of my life, or if you happen to just be in the inner circle, then you can't help but notice that I'm also a hot mess. And I actually don't try to hide that.
Mm-hmm. And that's the best part.
I don't try to make it the forefront of my existence either. And I think that's been one of the biggest things I've healed, of being hard on myself used to be my whole personality. And now it's not really a part of my personality anymore. I can recognize that I'm not perfect, but I can see it as a necessary part of being a relatable human now. Yeah. And so, yeah, when it comes to this idea that healing isn't linear and adopting a growth mindset, I think adopting the growth mindset is the healing. Because if you were to ask me, are you healed now? I would say yes and definitely not. Because it's in some ways, yeah, very much. And in some ways I was just talking to a student in my class this morning about how a few days ago I completely couldn't leave the house because of overwhelm and social anxiety. And I haven't felt that way in so long, but something just triggered it and it took over. And we were kind of talking about how healing is this iterative process of you move through it and you feel the sense of expansion and you're like, oh, I have arrived. Like you said, oh, she's arrived. In some ways, yeah, you arrive to the next chapter. But then in that chapter, just like in any good book or any good story, there's going to be a new challenge or revisiting of an old challenge. And there's always a deepening of the healing that becomes available, where you revisit it again, but maybe now you have a perspective that is less intense, less in the weeds.
Sure.
Where you're not getting so just pulled into the depths of the struggle, but you can actually have this higher perspective that you can observe yourself moving through that from. And I feel like a lot of the feeling of being healed is that. It's like, can I hold my struggle lightly instead of losing myself completely? And can I observe it without judgment and know that this is just normal? And I think the growth mindset for me is about, it's moving away from this idea of having to fix something, achieve something, or be a very particular way, and instead kind of zooming out and looking at my whole life as this entire timeline and thinking about, if I'm growing, then I'm doing it right. And not, have I reached this destination by this age? Have I checked this thing off the list at the right time? Because that is where we feel like we need to heal because something is terribly wrong and we need to be fixed. Instead of, what is here for me to learn today? Which is like, if you can be an adult and stay a student, then it's very easy to feel like you're healed, because it's very easy to feel like nothing's wrong with me. I'm here to learn. And so for me, a lot of that energy you feel coming from me is from cultivating soulfulness and love more than achievement. And you used the word excellence when we were talking yesterday. And I feel like that word is so, there's all these expectations around it.
Sure.
And I used the word extraordinary. And I was like, what is the difference between extraordinary and excellence? Well, for me, excellence feels like rigidly defined by our ego self.
Sure.
And extraordinary feels magical. Like it's coming from this desire for life to be art. Like for life to be inspirational to our soul.
Absolutely.
So
it's certainly something that, like, having a season where you are super hard on yourself and perfectionism is king and excellence is the goal, and it is this badge of honor you wear. And it's kind of like a lot of money mindset things. You wear it as a badge of honor, that I don't need that in my life. Those different kinds of mindsets that we find ourselves stuck in to protect ourselves. And instead of asking yourself, what if I just handled this pattern that has come up for me a couple times now with a little more grace? What if I strode for a little bit more progress over the perfection? And to be able to disconnect from the official outcome when you are in a spiral, like stopping yourself from going into the spiral. I have so many tools now. You have a full toolbox that your overwhelm was a day instead of 2 weeks.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the difference. And also, the difference is that I was able to receive it as this is an upgrade. Like every time we have to move through something hard, it's part of our curriculum to become who we're meant to become next. And I always think now, oh, I'm going to know in hindsight why I had to move through this. And I already know why. Because I was getting ready to talk about something really traumatic from my past that I almost forgot what it felt like to be in that, because I've been so far from that dark place that I used to be in.
Yeah.
So speaking of, you said people might not know what it took for me to get to a place where it seems like I'm really embodied in this self-loving place, and I mostly am. But I come from a past of really intense struggle with my emotional and mental health. And so, you know, one thing is to never make assumptions about who someone is or what they've been through, because we don't know, and what they're still going through in this moment. And a lot of the ways that I coped with that was this shield, like you brought up, this protection strategy. The shield of perfectionism, the shield of alcoholism, the shield of having to perform a version of myself in order to not be seen, and just thinking about what is healing really? What is healing from perfectionism really? It's, to me, it's dropping the act, because it's not a real thing that exists. It's a thing that we think exists, and we try to go, and I think this is why it's so deeply unsatisfying when we're stuck in that. It has to be perfect or it can't exist. I have to be perfect or I can't exist. When we get stuck in that, it's deeply unsatisfying and unfulfilling, because we're striving for something that's not real and doesn't exist. So it's just this like really deeply unfulfilling thing that we keep chasing, and that's why I think people who struggle with perfectionism they ultimately hit this rock bottom burnout eventually, because no one has the energy to keep that up. And so,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's like no one makes it to the very end of old age holding on to perfectionism.
It's like just tight. I just like see it as like a pole. It's like, no. You can't take it from me.
Do they? I don't know. Maybe
I'm
wrong about that.
I have no clue, because I don't know anyone. I feel like in older age, so many get to kind of an F it point. And
you have to earn that.
Right? But I mean, and there's even a line to toe there, where it's like there are people who say F it, and that's more because they kept it so boxed up for so long. And so they perceive that they can say whatever the heck they want, and they can be mean and cruel, and they can be whatever, because like, I don't hide my feelings anymore. Like, I don't do this. Like, I'm unhinged. Versus like this aged wisdom. When you arrive at it from a place of wisdom, when you hit that release point from a place of wisdom, or from a place of, I'm not quite sure what the word I'm looking for is. It's necessity of breakout, almost, of burnout even, but it's not that. It's like they've been locked in a box for so long, and they just like finally broke from a place of breaking. I perceive that there are two kinds of old age hit it kind of thing, where it's like, oh, I've arrived in this place where I don't need to make you happy, and you don't need to make me happy, and I don't have to be perfect, and you don't have to be perfect. And people that are like, you're this is silly. like I have people in my sphere that tend to be like making comments because they're unhinged versus making comments from a place of kindness and love. And, you know, I don't know how to express that in a more articulate way.
No, that is so valuable to talk about, because this is, if we don't handle the tendency for perfectionism with care, it can be the thing that pulls us really far from our potential. So there is a greatness that we all have. And there is nothing wrong with aspiring to that greatness. In fact, it's beautiful. I hope everyone aspires to their greatness. But perfectionism is an all or nothing mindset. And when you're in that, the breaking point you're talking about is if I charge through life until the age of 50 and I find out that I still can't be perfect, well then, if I can't have it all, then I go to the nothing.
None of it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, then you're really far from your greatness. It's like a giving up. And so for me, the distinction and the way that we begin to sort of heal this is looking at the difference between the ego self and the soul self. Because the ego self, which by the way is not a bad thing. You know, the ego gets a bad rap.
Gets a really bad rap. Like,
yeah.
ego's just, I have to talk to my ego half the time. I picture this 7-year-old version of me where she thinks she knows what she wants. And yeah, I hold her very tightly. And I'm like, it's going to be okay.
That's
Why are
beautiful.
you upset today?
This is one of the tools, right? Reparenting your inner child. And we actually have so many different inner children of different ages who've been through different things. And so that is very wise to be connected to that. We have the opportunity to reparent our subconscious mind, which is actually what's driving the behavior, right?
Right.
No one is sitting around purposely torturing themselves with perfectionism. It's happening as a result of so many things, nature versus nurture, which we kind of talked about a bit yesterday, and also there's a lot of factors that play into what forms our subconscious behaviors, but perfectionism is always that. It's never our true self. It is a protective strategy that we develop, and so the ego is important because it's what gives us our personality out in the world. It's the thing that makes us human instead of just a ball of light, right? And so the ego isn't bad. It's just that, and actually we need it to alchemize our desires and our ideas into tangible reality. Like we have to have some drive for achievement. Otherwise, we wouldn't be sitting here recording this. We'd be sitting on a mountaintop thinking about how it'd be cool if maybe we did something one day.
Exactly.
So you need the ego because it helps you to have the ambition to show up for the things that matter to you. But it also is driven by fear, and it's coming from a primitive place of survival a lot of the time. And so it's like, it is always scanning the environment for whether or not it's safe and has belonging with the people that you're around. And so it will very easily take over and have you do the protective thing instead of the soulful thing. And so the remedy, I think, is we love on our ego, but we also do the work of getting to know our soul better, our soulful self, our heart energy, the part of us that really loves people because they're not perfect. Like the part of us that feels like warm and squishy and just feels this warmth of humanity that comes through when we just drop the act and be real. That, the soulful self, the one who knows better, when we can do the work of getting to know that part of us, we can be more in balance of, okay, I can be in my greatness without having the agenda of all or nothing. Instead, I see it as all or nothing is black or white. And having soulfulness is having access to the whole prism of everything that exists.
Yeah.
And so from that place, you can actually do better things. But
this zone of genius where it's like your heart has been asking for, like, I hit that point of burnout where I was really doing a lot of soul work and all of these different things where I was showing up more authentically finally and doing a deeper degree of healing than I had ever done before. I had found Anamkara finally after big life treks and everything, as you know, and we've worked through so much of that together in tandem with your different healing journeys, but I was still stuck in this people-pleasing cycle in coming from multiple directions in my life, and hit this place of doing enough soul work to realize that I was showing up in a perfection, excellence driven place that was not in alignment with who I wanted to be or the path I wanted to go down. But I was doing it because I should. And I did it really well. I hit that point where I called it the knives down season, the last 8 months, where it was just like, you are juggling so many knives in the air right now that one of them is for sure going to come down and give you a little stab in the noggin. Something's going to happen.
I love that analogy.
Just like, we're not okay. Like, put them all down. And learning how to just spend a day in my kitchen cooking things that I wanted to cook, not use my computer at all, and not really look at my phone. I only just started wearing my watch again to like track activity because I have to, because like I want to. Like, I'm in a better relationship with it now. Before, I was closing my rings for all these other reasons, and that weren't, I want to feel my best. I want to do this because it fuels me. And it was, I have to. An excellent person does this. And to be perfect me, I have to do this. And I had done a lot of other healing and a lot of really great work, but because I was doing that other soul work, it made this just that much more glaring. I couldn't hold both. And so to just put everything down and like, now I'm very mindfully picking things back up, and it's stuff like this. I love having deep conversations with humans who need to be heard more, and hearing better information and better advice from more aligned people in the media space. Because social media is so full of perfection, and it's everyone's 5 a.m. wake up routine to like go on a 10-mile run and then either, like, you know what I mean? Like, do all these things that can be very nourishing, but it leaves so many women in this place of feeling like the wind is just out of their sails. Because I can't be perfect. I can't wake up at 5 a.m. with my sourdough that's just been waiting there and then go on a 10-mile run and wake up my toddlers who have cotton sheets that I made from my own whatever field. You know, it's like all of these different pieces that just spirals you deeper and deeper into all or nothing. I can't be perfect. I can't be her as I see on my phone screen. So I won't bother with any of it.
Yeah.
And the whole point of the podcast is to kind of reignite and refuel her to realize, take the tools you want, leave the ones you don't. The people that you see as perfect aren't. If they're telling you they are, find another person. Someone who does kind of like, I am here. I am right on time. I used micellar water in my hair this morning, and I shouldn't have. We're fine.
Oh my gosh. I'm exploding with so many things. I want to respond to everything you just said, because you bring up things that change someone's life so much. I just wrote something down last week when I had this big realization of having the tendency to be aspirational is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But
and
what I connected to was, don't be so aspirational that you forget to leave some of yourself for the things you love most in the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
And how often do any of us say the things, like if someone asks you, what matters to you most in this life? If you had to remove everything and you could just choose the most important people, places, activities, what actually matters, if this is it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're to connect to that, what really matters to you, it's so easy for us to know what those things are. But how many people then in their daily life go and take all of those things for granted in the pursuit of meeting new people, doing other things, becoming someone else?
Yeah.
It's like, even this, in the pursuit of, so on the one hand, it's like, be a visionary, go after what you want, build your dream life, keep bettering yourself, keep growing. But not at the expense of living your life right now, because what if this is it? Like, not to be
You're not guaranteed
like that, but
anything.
that's the thing. It's like, if we always live for the future, then we always miss out on right now. And so it's so important that we can connect to just how rich everything already is, because there is no guarantee that the future is getting better, even though we aspire for that. And we manifest it, and we create it, and we set ourselves up for that. But, you know, it's like, yeah, but what if this conversation right now really matters, even though you're like, but they're going to keep getting better and better, you know? Like, this is how I have really made the shift for myself from paralysis that happens in perfectionism.
I know it.
Yeah.
I know it in my soul.
So, gosh,
She
as
hurts
I was,
me.
yes, and it's like, to actually doing the things, it makes me feel so lit up when I have just done something.
Taken action, bold,
Yes.
inspired, aligned action.
And do your best
And you
in that
know
moment.
it when you feel it. And if you haven't felt it, what tools would you give a coaching client if they came to you and you're like, I don't even know what spark you're talking about? What if she's never felt it? What if she grew up in a way that she did conform to like your childhood narrative of like, be more normal, you know, like settle, do what we ask the way that we asked, you know, like just of society, of school, of like sit still, be quiet, be small.
Yeah. So oh my gosh, I love this question, because I am coming, so for context, I'm coming from this truth I live in now as a 40-year-old woman, where I've decided to embrace what I call the rebellion of authenticity. And I have no apologies about that. And so
that.
this is my new resting state that feels so comfortable here, that I do sometimes feel that I forget that it is very real to be in the place that I was, you know, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and all the masks that I wore, to be enough for whoever I was with. And so in the context of the example you gave, you know, of like, I feel very lucky and grateful that I came from a family that was very loving and supportive and gave me like the best life that they could with a lot of care and effort. And at the same time, I was also forged, like all of us were, with the impact of society in general, and even just like the way that things were, the perspectives people had of, and maybe this isn't true for everyone, but I know it's true for a lot of people, and especially a lot of women, of this, you know, be a good girl. Just, you know,
oh, she's so pretty, she's so cute, like look what she did for them, or you know.
Oh yeah, like how you be a good person is you put everyone else before yourself.
You're good for others.
And also that other people have a say in your appearance. Other people have a say in what you eat and what your posture is at the dinner table, and what you're allowed to talk about, and the volume of your voice, and what your laugh sounds like, and what you're allowed to be interested in, and what you're allowed to spend your time on, and all of it. And it's like it's so normal that we don't even realize. We don't even realize that we're taking these people who are just so unique, little bursts of magical sunshine, who have gifts, unique gifts to give to the world, and putting them in this like little box and being like, okay, don't shine too bright now. Just, you know, we've all heard this everyone waking up to this, like, why are we stifling people from being themselves?
Right.
But when you're in it, and when you're deeply in it, and when you really do feel the fear of, what if the people I love most don't love me anymore? If whatever it is, if I decide to pursue my art, if I decide to become a singer, if I decide to wear my natural hair texture, like, whatever it is, everybody has something that if they were loved unconditionally and encouraged to be their authentic self, would be completely self-expressed in those areas. And then so if someone is saying, like, I've never felt the spark, I don't even know what you're talking about when you're saying, like, the spark of just getting something done. You know, honestly, the way that I approach this work with people is completely custom every time. It really depends what we are working with.
Sure.
So it's very like,
it's a hard question to answer.
Meeting someone where they are. And so this is what I would advise someone who's listening to this right now is, can you meet yourself where you are with so when you first get to know someone, let's say you're going on a date or you're meeting a new friend, how is it that you interact with this person so that you can get to know them? And this is what I would encourage anyone to do with themselves.
Sure.
To understand that you're in a relationship with you. You don't know that because you think you're in a relationship to all these other people, and that your job is to be in service of their needs.
Yeah.
And so it's like, date yourself, honey.
Right.
Date yourself.
Very Julia Cameron.
It's like, seriously, like, take yourself out on dates. Ask yourself questions. I can't stress this enough. How you get to know someone is you ask someone questions and you listen to the answer. And you hope, you invite that they answer honestly.
Sure.
And so it's like, at first, I think it's a lot to do with giving yourself permission in the privacy of your own time to answer whatever is truthful to you, without feeling like you have to curate yourself to think about, what would mom think? What would dad think? What would my brother think? What would my best friend think? What would my boss think? And just let yourself answer honestly in the privacy of just you and you, or you and a coach, or you and a therapist, or you and a safe circle of people who are doing this soul searching work.
Yeah.
And it's like, you'll start to realize that you knew that spark when you were young. Everybody experienced it.
I
when
get like
they were
weepy
young.
when I think of that concept, just because it has been like, don't shine too bright now. Like, and I have kids now. And like trying to parent them while not like putting them in a box, but like, Milo, you can't do that. Like, or Eloise, like, this is not the time to scream at the top of your lungs. Like, we are not singing Frozen right now. But it is so true that all of us have this smaller version of you, this inner child that, whether you remember it vividly or not, like, I remember a few very distinct moments that to my circle, like to my family, they probably don't even remember. Like, it was just like, sit down, please. You know, like, it wasn't anything harmful. It wasn't hurtful. Like, those ones stick with me of like, be quiet, be small, and like, go away from that spark, you know? And I was taught, there was like this deep appreciation of fitness in our home. And my sister would go for a run. She's 5'9" with a 6-foot wingspan. Like, she runs like the most beautiful gazelle you've ever seen. I am 5'4" and Asian, all body. Like, I look ridiculous when I run. And
you're so cute and beautiful.
Thank you.
But I want to see you run.
But I am not a natural runner. Like, my sister's this most beautiful, like, her gait is just stunning. Like, she's one of those people that I like watch run and I'm like, you were built for this.
That's her gift.
It's one of her many gifts.
Yeah.
And she is a natural born athlete. Like, I can't even, her beauty in sport is something that like I've never understood. But she would be getting ready to go for a run because that's how she decompressed. Like, naturally, her body loved to exert in that way, and she found clarity in that. And my parents perceived that to be a higher value like activity than doodling in a notebook or like an art project or whatever. And so like that was closed. Like, be small. And reconnecting with those sides of me as an adult and in really safe spaces like Anukara and with relationships that have been forged in spaces like that I didn't appreciate how special those are and how rare those deeply connected, deeply embodied, loving relationships between friends. Like, I just didn't even understand. I didn't appreciate that until like the last 8 months in a deep, deep way. Because so many relationships that we acquire by family, by proximity, by school, work, whatever, like, how deep are those connections for you? How safe are those relationships actually? Are you still wondering if they'll disapprove? Because your true people will see your light when you're like lit up about talking about this. And they might have some follow-up questions, but they're not the people that are scoffing at you. They're not the people like, what does she think she is? Like, you know your people when you start stepping into your authenticity. And your circle becomes, in my perspective, a little smaller, maybe a lot smaller.
At first, I think at first, because there's an evolution that happens. And I always look to nature when I'm in search of truth. And in nature, when something is new is going to grow, it grows from something else having been decomposed. And so there's a falling away that happens before there's more growth. And that cycle of falling away and then growing is what happens as we choose to evolve. Everyone evolves naturally, but if we don't do it with intention, it happens very slowly. And some people can even go backwards if they try to stay the same. So staying stagnant actually sends you backwards. And so people who intentionally say, I'm going to do this work, I'm going to heal, I'm going to grow, I'm going to keep learning, you evolve at a faster rate than you would naturally without trying. And so you're almost like speeding up the process of turning the page, which allows a lot of things to fall away or create some more space. And so then it might feel like, okay, my circle's gotten really small and intentional. But then the more you're the lighthouse of who you really are, the more people who are like assigned to you in this world,
Right.
the more people who are your people,
Your frequency lines up with a
they
different echelon of person.
They see you, and they keep seeing you, and the circle grows and grows and grows again. Because it's almost like if you think of a tree, and it's like every year that it grows, it gets another ring. The more that we are standing tall in our authenticity, it's like we get another ring around our life of richness, of people that are in alignment and opportunities that are in alignment. And so I think it can feel really lonely when we're really in the deep excavating.
And you're a baby tree.
And
Just
you're like,
I'm gonna snap.
Yeah. Yeah, growth is painful. I saw the cutest little comic of a little seed, like a seed of a plant.
Yeah.
And it's like at first it's just this little seed in the soil, and it's like, oh, it's so comfy in here.
So cozy down
It's
here.
just in the dark, and it's just warm and safe, and it's got a hard shell around it. And then, it's ready for the plant to come out. And so the comic did a really good job of depicting this as a painful, violent experience that the seed is cracking open, and this little seedling is like, oh God, help, make it stop. Someone, am I dying? I'm dying. I must be dying. This is horrible.
Death. This is death.
Yeah, and then it's like traveling through the soil out of its seed pod, and it's just darkness. And it's like, what is this?
Right.
It's dark and cold and scary, and it's
awful.
traveling up, and it can't see where it's headed.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it bursts through, and it sees the sunlight and the blue sky and the other seedlings, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's paradise. And I feel like that is kind of what it's like to take a big step in your growth and your healing. It hurts.
To level up,
and it's not easy.
Right.
And that's why a lot of people don't choose it. A lot of people choose comfort. And so, like, in the context of perfectionism, it's like everything we do subconsciously has a purpose. So what is the point of torturing?
What's it telling you?
What's the purpose of torturing yourself with perfectionism, right? Like, why do we do this? And we have this illusion that we'll be more safe if we could just be perfect enough, if we could just live up to the expectations of everyone else and even ourselves. A lot of that comes from our own thinking that, okay, you said something that was really wise, and it's less about having to like be an overachiever and more about I have a sense of what my potential is and I want to reach it.
Yeah.
And I relate to that a lot. That's being aspirational, right? It's like having a vision and having a sense of what you're capable of. So sometimes the space between where you are and where you know you could be feels really painful and sad, and it makes you feel like a failure.
Sure. Because you're not there.
Yeah, wherever there is. But what I was connecting to today that is like really fun and liberating is that like it's fun to examine perfectionism. So this is another thing I would tell a client who's struggling with this to look at. Describe what perfect would be. Like, if your life could be perfect, if you could be perfect, if you could live up to the standard that you hold yourself to, like, try to define it. And it's really hilarious what we think that is.
I'm going to do with these 24 hours in any given day cycle.
Yeah, and so honestly, it's like, I would encourage you to actually do this exercise. And, anyone who's listening, for all of us to do it. I was starting to do it this morning for fun.
Sure.
And the version of myself that was created through this lens of, what I'm working towards, what I just wish I could be. Like when you start to let yourself really, let me define it, let me describe it. Who is this person? I'm like, oh, snap. she's so annoying. I do not want to be friends with this person.
That word. I was like, what's the word going to be? It's annoying.
So annoying. I do not want to be friends with this person.
Sure.
Not only is she horribly unrelatable, she feels fake, she feels robotic, she feels unhuman.
Yeah.
And she probably is really intimidating and scary and terrifying and not warm. And and then it's like, wait, but let's go back to the things of what we actually care about. Like, what are we always seeking? It's like humans care about just a few things: love, connection, fulfillment, purpose, living a purposeful life. Well, the closer you get to perfect, the further you get from that.
Sure.
And it's because when you really set out to define it and describe it, it gets so freaking weird. And so I was in a masterclass all week with Kathy Heller, who's an amazing podcaster, and she talked about this topic of how you need to get out of your own way so you can just show up and do your passion project.
Sure.
And she has a saying that's done is better than perfect. And she's just all about that.
Done
like,
is
just do it. just do it.
Damn it.
Just make a messy first draft. And she said one of her friends is in the movie industry. And her friend said to her when she was first stuck in the place of, who am I to do it? Like, she wanted to do it. She's a mom of 3 children. She's at home. She's a no one to no one. She's not famous. She doesn't, she has friends, but she's not known in the world. She doesn't know anything about tech. She has people in her life saying, who are you to do this? Right?
The voice isn't just in her own mind, it's in her circles.
Yes, and that is one of the things that holds us back the most.
So many women, though.
People
like, that's so upsetting.
Say to us, who are you to do that? Like, you know? And the people that love us the most because they fear for us.
Want to protect you.
Yes.
And protect their version of you.
Oh my gosh. That is huge. So then she sat with a friend who works in the movie industry, and she said, Kathy, how do you think we create a character if we want to ensure that the audience hates this character?
Snaps.
And what I thought the answer was going to be was like, make them mean, right?
I was like make them perfect.
Evil. Yes, the answer is make them perfect.
Like, zero mess. So, their hair is all, like, their kid is always like, perfectly coiffed.
Well, and then I started thinking about, you know, like Pleasantville and like this whole, whenever you see a movie try to depict a perfect character, how it feels to me is that they are so fake. Like the soulfulness I was talking about earlier is removed.
Sure.
And it's just like this perfect performance. And it's like, wait, but even if you're so beautiful and so successful and
you can have it all.
If you can have it all, but it's like this part where the heart energy is like removed.
Right.
And I'm not trying to judge anyone who is super ambitious or really beautiful or really athletic or really successful. Like, I celebrate people in their greatness.
But we know there's a curtain and we know there's something behind it. Like,
yeah, but there's we all have magic and we all have mess. If you try to just have perfection, both of those things are removed. To try to create this illusion of something that doesn't exist in nature with humans or anything else. And so when she said that, I was like, oh my gosh, it's so true. Like, and this is what I said to a friend this morning who was freaking out because, not freaking out, she was moving through a moment where she was like, I just don't have energy today. I'm tired. And she was being hard on herself about it. And we got in this conversation about, you know, and I was like, you know, I'm so happy to hear this because you are such an energetic person. You are doing all the things all the time. Mm-hmm. And I'm so relieved that your humanness comes in sometimes. And
get to see it.
And because otherwise you'd be really intimidating.
Sure.
And the thing is, it's not about like we want to pull people down in any way. Like I want to see people shine in their best version of themselves. I'm all about that. Like never keep yourself small for the sake of being relatable. I do not stand for that. I do not stand for that at all. But if we put in our truthful effort to be our best, we will inevitably still make a ton of mistakes. And this is where it's like authenticity.
Today is like the perfect encapsulation of that for both of us.
Yes. And then, so to my friend, I said, perfectionism is here to save us from ourselves. It's here to keep us being able to be in our hearts and be endearing to each other and be relatable to each other and have warmth instead of these like hard, sharp, perfect edges of just like rigidness, because that cuts people out.
Right.
And it keeps people at an arm's length. Because my skin can look perfect if I always keep you over there. Like my life can look perfect if I always keep you over there.
If it's diffused by space.
Yeah. If I'm going to let you into my house today.
Oh, no way in hell. No.
You are going to see that even though I have a really cool podcast set, I also have clothes.
My plants are hiding my laundry.
I also have clothes all over the floor. And I have, I did a purple hair mask.
Ooh.
A couple days ago, the last time I washed my hair. Let's talk about dry shampoo, shall we?
Shall we?
And now the bottom of my tub is completely purple because the drain is currently clogged and I need to clean it out. And so, yeah.
Got a purple tub.
I present
people would pay for that.
What I feel inspiring to share on my Instagram, and I have nothing to hide, but I don't think it's particularly inspiring to share my purple tub right now with a hairball stuck in it. But it's like,
and you get like one of those snakes.
But okay, there's a yes, I need to do that. There's a past version of me though that honestly would prefer to not have friends than for you to see that. For you to peek inside the truth of something in my life that isn't like perfectly dialed, I'd rather you just not be able to see me at all.
Right.
And it's like, how sad.
How lonely.
Sad that like I imagine that I'm going to be 85 one day maybe if I'm lucky. And I'm going to look back on the memory of keeping a perfect house with no one in it, than letting people see the truth of my imperfection and be surrounded by love and warmth and realness.
And like, sure, never to have been seen in your mess, but also never to have been seen in your greatness or your wholeness or your healedness or your
that's also
loneliness,
what it
or
prevents.
You don't get to be held in any way when you don't get to be held in your mess too. You're cutting it off. You're creating a wall.
Oh my gosh. Yes, because the greatest works of art and the greatest inventions and the greatest experiences and everything that makes life worth living only gets to happen because someone was brave enough to try something before they knew how.
And to keep trying and failing, air quotes. Like I'm like experimenting, trying again and trying again and falling and having people tell them they're crazy. And it's like, but I have this vision. But I know. You don't have to know, but I know.
That is so huge. Because other people's limiting beliefs are based on their feeling of what is possible for them. And what is possible for you is different than what's possible for me, is different than what's possible for your family and everyone, because each of us has a very unique set of like constellation of traits that makes us capable of something that is unique to us. And so while a lot of us will share similar desires and similar strengths and similar struggles, and we really are more similar than we are different in so many beautiful ways, there is like, when someone has this spark of genius, of creativity, of vision, it's there on purpose. And it's our job, as everyone else, to encourage that person to show us what it is. Not to say, I can't imagine how that would be possible. You shouldn't try. What if it's like, I just read something. Marconi, I think his name is, the guy who invented radio. The guy who figured out.
Was it an accident? Was it one of those?
No. I don't know enough about the story to really tell it right now, but he had a concept of radio, that you could connect people wirelessly that don't live in the same place. Think about how actually wild that is.
How crazy that sounded to everyone around him.
Before it existed. So his friends actually did an intervention and got him checked in to a mental health institute. And he had to undergo all of this screening, and people basically accused him of being mentally insane and unwell.
Sure.
And he went ahead and kept believing in himself. Can you imagine how insulting that would be if you were going after your dream?
Your family literally took you to the psych ward.
And they're like, you're not okay?
You're going to get screened 30,000 times.
Yeah, when he was like, I invented a way for people to communicate through like vibrational transmissions that are in the air. Basically, like his initial way of describing it to people, they were just like, what are you on? Are you high right now? And so he went forth believing in himself, and he invented radio, and he changed the world, and he connected the world in a way that was not possible before.
It was inconceivable before.
Inconceivable. And the only reason that we even believed the internet was possible, I'm sure, is because first radio was possible. You know, it's like, whatever your thing is, don't worry if other people get it, because you have that desire, you have that vision for a reason. It's because you're meant to show other people that it's possible, not as a like, I have to prove it, look at me, not because of that.
Not for anyone else.
Yeah. It's more like, if we could all just like let our egos kind of go on vacation for a second, and let our soulfulness rise to the surface of our existence, how much fun would it be to just play with what's possible? What is possible if we work together, if we encourage each other, if we believe in ourselves? Humans are capable of so much more than we even know yet, because we stay stuck in this like prison of limiting beliefs that we put around ourselves and around each other out of fear that like, oh, but what if you get judged?
It's very like crabs in a bucket. Like, no, come back down here with me, please. Like,
yeah.
If I see that you can crawl out of the bucket, it'll open the door to my what if I could crawl out of the bucket. And that's scary.
Oh gosh, even the fear of success holds people back.
I want it, but do you want it? And like something in my journey that I've had to really start playing more with is, it's like, you're never going to create these things that you claim to want to create if you are not first willing to be seen in your mess and in your magic. But also, unless you are willing to perceive change as something that's really exciting. Oh my gosh. Like, I am comfortable with and excited to receive change in my life. Because I have and like, I seem a little delulu to some of my humans in my close circles often. And it's like, I want to have a multi-million-dollar business that's built on lifting women up. And like, my family's like, that's great. Love that for you. You know, it's like, they're like, that's cute, honey. And they're like, what is this business? I was like, I don't fucking know. I don't know yet. But it's been received for so many years. And it does seem crazy. It doesn't seem safe. And it's like, if you're going to open up the door for that, you need to be willing to learn how to take the leap before you're ready. You need to learn how to be comfortable with change at a rapid rapid scale. And if you're not willing to accept change in your schedule in any one given day, if you're not willing to run behind, or for the camera not to work, or for the tech not to work, you know, like, if you don't handle those like smaller hurdles well, how the universe is like, she is not ready. She is not ready to receive this big change.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. There's so many things you touched on there that are life-changing when you, like, one, the willingness to be misunderstood, right? The willingness to be misunderstood, to be judged, to not be encouraged by the people you love most, and to stand in your truth anyways. Like, that is huge. So many people aren't willing for that. To keep believing when other people don't believe. And, like, also, yeah, like, to be able to frolic in the land of possibility and potentiality instead of staying stagnant in the realm of what is predictable and familiar and safe. And those are two totally different lives. To say, okay, everything is linear, everything is predictable. I'm going to do my best to just mitigate risk everywhere in my life so that it's safety first, right?
Sure.
And then there's the kind of like entrepreneurial weirdos like us who are like, but, okay, so for me, the thing I'm most afraid of is dying bored of my own life story. So even though all the other things are scary, the scariest thing is to have not enjoyed my life, not really go all in to find out how great could this be, how, like, what is possible. There's something about, regardless of the outcome, going after something that matters to you is the life force energy that makes life worth living. So I made a decision that said, I'm going to go all in on my dream of my business, which is a similar goal of yours. And I'm going to go all in as if it's, of course, going to happen. And I'm never going to give up. I'm just for as long as it takes. And if I make it to the end of my life and I didn't reach certain milestones that maybe I had in my awareness, it won't have mattered because I will have lived a fulfilling life full of love and truth. And isn't that the point anyway?
Absolutely.
So that's what gives me permission to, like, embrace the unpredictability of going after what you desire with no way of knowing how it's going to turn out. And the truth is, too, that even if you try really, really, really hard to live a safe life, there is so much out of our control that that's impossible anyway. And then you end up just being like, well, maybe I should have just done something that made me happy.
We aren't guaranteed squat. Like,
yeah, exactly.
You don't know.
Exactly. We don't know. And so the way that I guarantee success for myself, I let myself feel successful in the choices I'm making right now. I don't make a lot of money yet, but I feel successful because I'm pursuing what I love. And I have enough, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. And I live in the feeling and frequency of gratitude. And of course, I have days where I'm like, oh my God.
Right, the sky's falling.
What if...
Where's my worry stone? Right, it's in Lexus's bra.
Yes. But then it's like, yeah, but to let fear win makes for a boring life, and I'm more afraid of being bored. So can I just cultivate courage again? For me, I don't try to not be afraid. I try to work on my courage muscle. I work on my courage muscle every day with intention. It's like, I know I'm going to be afraid. So, but how can I just get stronger? How can I just become more visionary? How can I work on my belief? How can I take more inspired action and practice trust and also embrace all of the inevitable challenges that are definitely going to be here and not make them wrong and be like, oh, this is part of it. Add that chapter to the story. It makes it more interesting. It's okay. Like, because I don't know, I love reading stories of people who did crazy things and what it took to get there. And all those stories include so much failure, so much judgment, so much people not believing in them. And then it's like, once they've done the thing, like invented light.
Right. Yeah.
Everyone's like, oh,
obviously.
I've known him forever.
Right.
And it's like,
but did you believe in him forever?
Right. And it's like, don't you want to be the person who believed in the person from the start? I believe every single person who walks through my doorway and tells me what their dreams are, I believe in it with my whole heart. I'm like, of course you're going to do that.
Right.
Of course you are. And it's going to be even better than you can imagine. That is my full belief because I believe in our potential. And part of that is embracing all of the mess. We are not going to be perfect.
0% chance.
Like, there's a 0% chance of even getting close to perfect. So you may as well be fun and relatable and have fun with your life and inspire people with your stories of hot messness and greatness and all of it and courage. And someday, like, just 2 weeks ago, I was bawling my eyes out right before teaching a class, right up to the point where students were coming in.
Raw and real with Steph.
And I was like, I was not in a good mood. I was crying. I didn't want to be there. And I was like, well, who am I to teach embodiment right now? And I was just like,
look at me.
In a funk. And I was like, okay, lead myself through this. Lead myself through this and be witnessed by the students because everybody has felt like this. So how am I going to make myself feel in my power again? Let me just do that out loud.
Sure.
And then we had one of the most powerful classes ever because it wasn't coming from a place of, let me prove how much I know as your teacher. It was coming from a place of, okay, here's what I do when I feel separate from my power.
A little mentee bee.
When I'm having a what?
Little mentee bee, mental breakdown.
Oh.
A little mentee bee.
I imagined, okay, this needs to be a product that maybe you sell one day. Mentee bees, like mints, like little mental health mints that have messages of love and encouragement, like those
I love it so
those
much.
Valentine's Day hearts.
Yeah. It's like the Valentine's Day heart meets the little icebreaker circles.
Yes. And you just pop them in
Mentee bee.
and you get a refresh. Oh, the branding could be so good.
It would be so
Mentee
cute.
bees.
A little mentee bee.
Okay. I
That's
love
gonna
this.
be real.
I love this.
I'm like, I don't know what kind of manufacturing plant I have to find to do this. But they have to exist because there's like custom wedding items.
Okay, we're going to figure this out. And on the note of the story I just shared,
I was like, but back on
I
track.
want to call out that we are in a moment right now where you have moved from an idea to doing the thing. We are in the creation of it right now in this moment. And it makes me want to cry, actually.
I'm like, if you make me cry, that'll actually be really fitting. I'm like, it's okay if we cry.
I know.
This is a place where we're allowed to cry.
But it does. It makes me emotional because it is, this is what it takes. Putting it on the calendar, getting it done, making the invite, showing up, right? Moving through all the parts that feel hard.
Yeah.
And like we're not ready and we're unorganized and all like as much as the whole way through I've been complimenting you on how organized you are because you truly are. And then it's like even in that things show up that you can't predict. And the way that you are embodied in this truth of everything we're talking about right now is so cool, because there's a million ways that you could just be freaking out or be stressed out or be like hating on the process or on yourself or whatever, right?
Yeah,
And
thank you.
I think this is really what it's about, is being able to move from perfectionism and that impossible standard and the rigidness of having to have control over every little thing, to moving from that to passion. Like, this project is instead a heart-centered thing, because you're letting passion and love and compassion be more important than perfectionism.
Thank you. Thank you for always seeing me and holding space for it. And I don't do that for myself very well. And I'm the person that I tend to, I've had to work very diligently on receiving a compliment without denying the compliment or immediately overshadowing it by a reciprocated, like, bigger, you know what I mean? Like, overshadowing it. And, like, that can be really hard, because I claim in no way to be perfect. But, like, even when you say, like, oh, you're so organized, you're like, I'm like, no. 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 Or he's like Ryan, the video guy next door, I thought that I ruined a whole shoot day, like, by using the green screen. I was experimenting. I was choosing progress over perfection. I was like, I'm not trying something new. And then I got home to edit it, and I was like, garbage from Garbage Island. I've made a terrible mistake. It's all going to be down in flames in any second. And I, like, got done recording here the other day, and I went into him, and I was like, fix it, help. I was like, it's broken, right? It's done. And he's like, no, it's like, you said you had a problem, and I thought you, like, actually had a problem. I didn't have a problem. I'm like, so poor Ryan, he deals with me on a weekly basis of, like, you need to calm the hell down. But I think for so many women in general, it's hard to receive compliments. It's hard to have imperfect parts of you held. And it's difficult to transition into a space of, yeah, like, I do look cute today. Thank you. I worked really hard on it.
Okay. Two things you pointed out that are so the healers of perfectionism. One, this thing of receiving, right? Like, being able to receive. And what you just said is truth. Like, there's fake and then there's true. Perfectionism is what manifests out of trying so hard that we move so far from our true essence that we present as fake. We feel ourselves as fake. And I always say truth is the highest form of love. More than sweetness, more than compliments, more than anything like on the side of sweetness. Truth, to me, is what love is all about, and intimacy and realness and connection. And part of truth is not just revealing the shadow self and the hard things and, like, letting you see my purple bathtub. Truth is also you saying, I do feel cute today. I do. What is there something that you're actually good at? And it's like, truth also includes that. Owning our strengths and being able to receive compliments for them. Like, when a client says, like, wow, like, this changed my life, this session changed my life, that thing you said, instead of being like brushing it off as just like all them or whatever, it's like, thank you. That's true. I am powerful in that way. And it also was a collaboration.
Right.
It's always a collaboration.
You had to show up too, but also you've cultivated so many skills that they feel second nature, more second nature to you now than they did 8 years ago.
Yeah, and part of truth is acknowledging how far we've come and what our strengths are and what our gifts are, and being able to say, I am good at that. And that is so scary to start to step into that when you've been a self-hater your whole life, like I was,
Right.
where I would be so humble.
You wore the badge.
Oh yeah. I'm like, I hate myself the most.
Excuse me. I crawled out of a dumpster this morning. Did you? No?
like that, just in the perfectionism realm. Like, I was obsessed with being as skinny as possible, right? 90s kid.
Yeah.
And so the badge of honor was like, eat as little as possible, work out as much as
only had a grain of
possible.
rice.
And then if someone compliments me on my physique, oh no, I'm gross and fat. That's the badge of honor that I wore, that was not rooted in truth or grounded in reality, by the way, which is how you lose yourself very easily. And so now the truth is like, I can look at the truth of what I have going on and be like, this I can acknowledge is a great thing, and this is an area that needs work. Like, I can just acknowledge the truth. And so you're speaking to something that takes a lot of courage to break out of these like old world beliefs that somehow being humble to the point of self-hatred is commendable.
Right. It's rewarded.
Yeah, especially for women.
Socially, anyways.
And then the other thing is, I really, really want to acknowledge you and celebrate you for asking for help, queen. I cannot tell you how big of a deal this is. I'm glad you've been bothering Ryan and asking for help, because I guarantee you it's not a bother. I guarantee you
it's literally their job. Like, whenever I'm like, I'm so sorry. Andy and Ryan, like the podcast guy and the video guy, are both like, I'm literally being paid to be here. So, and it's my job to understand how these things work. And I'm like,
Isn't it great to be able to help someone if you know the answer and they don't?
It feels good.
And you give them that gift when you ask a question. And yet here we are being all apologetic for our existence. I'm so sorry that I'm breathing the air in the room. Oh my God, you know, like,
I'll reimburse your oxygen.
Honestly, it's time for women to exhale as big as possible and relax into taking up space and ask for help and know that we get to be here. That's why we're here.
Too good.
Honestly, it is such a tired, old, boring story that we have to hold our freaking breath and hyperventilate with stress because maybe just possibly we're a burden to someone somewhere.
There's so many things. Like, that'll have to be season 2. That'll have to be our conversation. I'm like, I'm like, what's relevant today? What's relevant today?
I know.
I wholeheartedly agree, and I get like real worked up. I get like on a pedestal for women, but also in the space, like in the breath of perfectionism and in the breath of taking up space, I see it relevant in the social media space of like shaming women or like being a troll. Let's just call it what it is. Being a troll when it doesn't look the way that you want it to look, or doesn't look the way that you perceive that like fulfilled should look, or like take up space in whatever way you want to take up space and like that is aligned for you, and allow other women to do the same.
Full body goosebumps.
Just leave her alone.
Last night, I recorded episode 9 of my podcast.
The Yubu podcast.
It was. Wait, we didn't even say what this one was called yet.
Stephanie Sauvé Bouge. It'll be in the intro video.
Thank you. No, but my theme, the topic of the show was me being a childless cat lady. And a shout out to all my fellow childless cat ladies.
It's the way you said it.
In the house.
It just wasn't what I was expecting to hear.
So what you just said, can two women sit here in pure unconditional love and celebration of each other when you chose to be a mother and I didn't? When we both have a podcast that we're putting out into the world around the same time with similar topics, and to both be in the coaching space doing similar things and honestly be in celebration of each other.
There's not enough of it, but yes.
Yeah. And
people don't get it.
There is a lot of like cat scratchy behavior out in the sisterhood. And, you know, it's a personal mission of mine to contribute to. There's plenty of women out there doing this right now, and it makes me have hope to heal the sisterhood wound, which is this BS that we do.
Yeah.
That is trying to feel good enough through the subtle art of tearing each other down. And we are taught this from a very young age.
So young. Like, you see it in kindergarten classrooms.
You see it in Disney movies.
You see it in Disney movies.
So in the Disney movie trope is the most beautiful one has no friends.
Right.
Her only friends are animals.
Mice.
She's waiting to be saved by this mystical prince who's going to show up out of the ether.
Because she needs him.
If she's helpless enough and pretty enough. Meanwhile, all these other women are friends and they have fun and they do cool stuff together, but they're not quite as pretty as her, so they all hate her. Right. And they're all kind of ugly, but they're cool. Right. And they have friends. That is the story.
That is the
that
story
we are raised on. And the perspective of the movie is, though, but you want to be the princess. Because all that really matters is being the pretty one who's chosen by the prince. Yeah. But make sure you're helpless enough and don't surround yourself with a powerful
origins, dear.
Yeah, like if you surround yourself with a powerful circle of women, well, that's impossible because you're the enemy for being the best one. And then we're all sent off to school being told, be the best at what you do.
But don't be too big.
But like also aspire to get straight A's and be athletic and blah, 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 blah. But also be humble. But also be helpless. And also keep needing me as your parents endlessly and never find your own confidence.
Chills.
So
like it's so
deeply
relevant.
Indoctrinated.
It's so deep, and it's such a like societal, cyclical pattern.
It's no one person's
problem.
fault. Every parent is out there doing their best.
Oh, certainly.
This is not a personal attack on anyone, and it's more just
it's a collective problem.
It's a collective problem.
Energy dilemma.
Yeah, and so it's like we feel like there's these options for us, like so you're either the academic one, or the pretty one, or the athletic one, or the creative
you get one
one
identifier,
or you're but you can't. You know, if you're not that attractive, then you have to be funny. And there's all these things, right? And then you hear these beautiful women saying, but I just want to be seen for my intelligence or my sense of humor. And it's like, well, okay, if truth is something that's actually allowed here on the table, so many women have so many amazing qualities. And beauty is subjective.
So multidimensional.
And there's so many forms of intelligence. Right. And everyone is here to be a very specific fabric in the tapestry of the whole universe. And that's exactly what you're supposed to be. The full expression of that.
And like you can probably think to a time when you've met someone who like objectively, structurally is very beautiful. And then you try to get to know that person and you realize that there's not a depth there. And they, for lack of a better term, it's kind of like a boring relationship. It's not a two-way street. Like there isn't energy flowing both ways. There's you're pouring all of this energy into this conversation because they have nothing else to say.
Yeah, and I think that happens when people get hyper-focused on the surface.
They live into that narrative.
Yeah, and it's like when you really believe that your safety in the world and your belonging comes from the surface level expression you put out, you might pour all of your energy and focus into the presentation and never understand what's beneath and never dive deeper. And who knows why people do this? I believe everyone has a depth. Some people just have never been shown how to access it.
Right.
And
that's what I was getting. I'm sorry that sounded crass. It was kind of sounding
No,
that sounded mean. But I was like, I'm trying to get a topic of like,
it actually is real. And it's sad because I see all of these people. So for example, a huge trend in the world right now, and I just want to caveat this with saying no judgment to any woman out there, but a huge trend in the world is getting injections, getting Botox, getting plastic surgery. It's become the norm. It's actually, so I'm 40. I have none of it. I've never done any of it. And I'm the weird one now.
Right, and I'm
the weird one, right? So
you're like, in what world?
It's a huge trend.
That's why it doesn't have to be weird or not weird. But anyways, continue.
And it's like, yeah, it's like, do what makes you feel good. But what I don't love that's happening is people doing it without checking in with themselves about if this actually is what is wanted. There's the, there's the peer pressure. There's the, why wouldn't you? People have said to me, why aren't you getting Botox? You should be getting Botox.
I don't perceive that you need one injection. I'm like, why? Who's telling you this?
Well, multiple people have.
What?
And because their perspective is that is what you should do.
Like women of a certain age should.
Right. And so if there is a surgery that helps you feel more like you, please go and do that self-loving thing. No judgment. But if you are hurting yourself with all kinds of body manipulation because you don't feel good enough, that's a completely different energy to be doing it in. Absolutely. Are you doing it from love, or are you doing it from fear of not being good enough? And it's like that's when you feel the emptiness happen. There are people that get extremely addicted to appearing perfect. Their home, their face, their body, their clothes, their jewelry, everything perfect. The presentation. And like, it's all hollow in here because they're just like trying so hard to fill some kind of void. And it's really sad when you see that being promoted further than by social media, by people saying, you gotta have the lips. You gotta have no wrinkles, no matter what age you are. Yeah, and you have to have a huge booty and a tiny waist, and you have to have a certain breast size, and it's like, you gotta have the nails, you gotta have it all. And it's like, okay, when do you have time to nurture your soul? If all you do is maintenance to be just barely good enough on the outside anyways, still. Because no matter how much you get done, there's another thing to do. There's a next thing to do. It's like the never-ending cycle
and
of
the aesthetic
gotta
is
be
always
perfect.
Changing. It's always evolving. What looks good,
right? And it's all subjective. So personally, I love to see. I fall in love with people who have an interesting life story, and people who tell their life story with their face. And why would you want to erase that? I think it's beautiful to not be perfect because it's like it puts depth in the grooves of your character. Like I love when someone is like, I love listening to my 97-year-old grandma. Shout out to Nanny Pat. Tell her stories and look at her beautiful, gorgeous face with 100 wrinkles on it and her beautiful blue eyes, and that she still wears jewelry, and that her hands can tell a million stories. Like, it's so beautiful. Why would we want to erase that? And I feel like but at the same time, I also sometimes catch my face in certain lighting and I'm like, oh my God, make it stop.
Listen,
I want to feel youthful, and I want to feel, but I do think there's an overemphasis on youth. Like, what is wrong with a wise woman? Isn't that one of the most powerful things in existence? A wise woman Why do we overvalue youth? Youth has its place. And that's where it's like perfectionism really is this illusion, because what's perfect to me is different than what's perfect to you or perfect to anyone else. And so I feel like if we're talking about like, how do we move this big scary monster out of the way that is perfectionism? And with any of this work, it's looking at what's underneath. And really, it's like at the core of it is our worth. It's like, what is perfectionism ever protecting us from? The fear of not being good enough.
That's
Of
just a
not
good
being
question
worthy.
to ask in general. Like yourself, like on a daily basis, like any limiting belief that comes up, or any like, I could never do that, or like, I don't want to do that, or what, like anything in your life, you could ask, what is this protecting me from? What is perfection protecting me from? What is overeating protecting me from?
Yeah.
What is suppressing my feelings? What is not diving into this conversation with my partner, this hard conversation protecting me from? What is anything in your day from rise till rest?
Yeah.
What is it protecting you from?
Exactly.
And if you can like start to have grace for yourself as you answer that honestly, and you show up in your mess and your magic, to be able to be like, wow, that's really protecting me from some deep wounds I didn't realize were still there. That's protecting me from not feeling worthy enough. That's protecting me from whatever.
And I love that. And it is such a big part of how these things begin to heal. And a question I love to ask that is in the same light that I find is so impactful is to say, like, what purpose? This is here for a reason. Like, what purpose is this serving? Like, how is, even it's protecting me, but sometimes it's like, how is this, what purpose is this serving right now? Like, sometimes we can connect to that it really turns us on.
Sure.
In a way, like to do the thing that that hurts us, like that it makes us feel a certain kind of way that we associate as good. Like, what we might not be able to always make the connection that there's a fear, that there's a protection. I feel like it's really advanced if we can do that. And I feel like at first it's like, what is this giving me? Like, what if I am not doing the thing, not having the hard conversation? I guess that is like, okay, that's very easy to see how that could be protecting you from what you don't want to feel when you're not doing something. But let's say you are doing something that is self-sabotage. It's like, what is this giving me? And sometimes that is pointing to what is also the remedy to the, when you discover, like, what is this protecting me from? It will show up with the thing you don't want, right? It's like fear, abandonment, judgment, being ostracized, whatever it is. And then it's like, but then how do we offer the remedy? And it's looking at, like, what is the pure innocent need that is the remedy to the wound? And that is what we get to fill ourselves up with and practice giving ourselves that.
Right.
Because
giving it to yourself.
When we
not expecting anyone to save you.
Yeah, when we outsource it, we give everyone else the job of our being whole. And while humans are interdependent, and I encourage
support is one
surround
thing.
yourself with people that you love and that love you, but when it comes to these like deep emotional wounds and healing these, it really does come down to establish what the need is and give it to yourself. So if the thing you're afraid of is abandonment or not being pretty, it's like, what are we afraid of if we're not beautiful enough? We're afraid of not being loved. not being valued. It might be different for someone, but like,
Sure.
let's just say it's like, I'm afraid of not being loved.
Sure.
Well, the pure innocent need then is love. It's often something so simple that we overcomplicate it. It's always, I want
It's
love.
always simple.
I want
most of the time.
belonging. I want, it's always love, belonging, to feel purposeful, to feel valued, to feel
Safe.
heard, to feel seen, to feel safe. It's those core needs, core emotional needs. And when we can start to connect to that, that's really what we need. We can start to give it to ourselves. You can say the words to yourself that you wish someone else would say. And then maybe it turns out you don't actually need the thing you think you need that is hurting you.
Right.
You get to practice. It's like, what if I said, what if instead of my partner or my parents having to say, I believe in you, I say that to me every single day. And then that helps jumpstart the courage to go out there and do the thing and just be brave and go slay, queen.
Do the damn thing.
Yeah, because like everybody is just so actually magical, and it's so sad when we hide underneath the guise of trying to be good enough. Because actually, if you removed all that BS, you would find out that you are the shiniest unicorn.
Shiniest of the shiny unicorns. You are shiny.
Have we been talking for 5 hours?
I was like just confirming that. I was like, oh wow, like we're doing great. I don't know how long we've been talking. Doesn't matter. But it's amazing. And we can like start to like take this down the hill, bring it home, and I'm trying to think. Like we've kind of covered so much of this anyways, but I think I want to ask everyone, all of my guests, of like, what fuels you? Because it's women when fueled. And we're here to fuel all of these women with the tools, the confidence, the belief. I believe in you. You know, like I believe in her and everything she's capable of and everything that she wants. And I don't think you're delusional, like, or whoever.
Oh, Delulu is the Salulu.
Delulu's always a Salulu.
That's what I think.
Delulu's a Salulu.
Like, let yourself be insane, honestly. Like, but with 2 feet on the ground. Like, this is why I practice daily grounding exercises, because you do want to dream big with roots in
But you don't want to be untethered.
Yeah, you don't want to actually, like...
You don't want to fly away. We are not Pegasus. We are a unicorn. We have 4 hooves on the floor. But...
So the question is what
fuels you?
What fuels me? Oh, well, I love this question. I love to be a well-fed woman. I do not like to go without. I don't set an alarm. Yeah. I let myself sleep. I let myself eat. I let myself have fun. I pursue my wildest dreams. I have dreams for what my business is and what my legacy is and what my purpose is, and I just let myself do that no matter what anybody thinks of me. Even if my own husband doesn't believe in me, which he is so supportive, but sometimes at first he's like, say what?
They don't get it yet. Like,
but
I get that.
He honestly is one of the reasons that I actually am where I am now, because of his love and support. And so honestly, that is a huge thing that fuels me, is learning to receive love and support from other people. Not feeling like I have to strong arm this life alone. Community, yes, I coach people, I hold space for people, I teach people things, but I actually invest huge in having space held for me. I show up to a lot of coursework and classes and circles and community things, and I immerse myself in connection and being inspired. Like, I let other people pour into me so that I can keep pouring into other people too. I let myself continually learn. I love to read and take courses. I'm always learning something new, and that keeps me inspired. I embrace change. I love it. I don't like when things get too stagnant, and I don't make myself have a routine. So I said the rebellion of authenticity earlier.
Yeah.
That is what fuels me. I let myself live in a way that feels truthful to me. Being a childless cat lady who has a passion-driven, heart-centered business.
Yeah.
And even in the personal development space that I work in, I don't care about the rules. I don't care about 5 a.m. I don't care about routines. I don't care about any of it. I learn and I take things into consideration and I try things on, but I honestly, the most healing, liberating thing that I've ever done that fuels me on a daily basis now is I let myself be free. I let myself
Shivers, chills.
decide today intuitively, what do I want? I actually don't overemphasize routine, habits, or discipline because it's very intentional, by the way, because I do believe those things are important and I value them and I incorporate them into my life to a certain extent. But my goal, instead of having a perfect routine, is to actually live more and more and more from my conscious awareness. So instead of coding in the habits, I want to not have habits. I want to actually be so in the present moment that it's like, what's now? What's now? What's now? And I trust. It's like there are things I'm committed to and I show up to those, but I leave a ton of space. So I have a practice called Energize Your Calendar, and I live by this. And I make sure that there is space in my calendar for me to feel free. Where it's like, okay, I want to rest. I want to snuggle with my kitties. I want to read a book. I want to take a course. I want to walk outside. I want to have creative time. I want to make art. I want to go be social. I want to live my life. I have nothing to prove to anyone. I want to receive the experience of being alive and get to do that. And I am worthy of that as an adult woman in the world, as everyone is. And that is what fuels me, is that permission that I give myself, that I don't wait for anyone else to give me. And I want to wrap all that up with all of that is done with love. I don't resent people. I don't do it out of spite. I really am able to approach everyone with love because I'm fueled. And because I let myself experience pleasure, I invest in myself, I give myself free time, and I let myself live what feels truthful and right to me. And from that is like, I want to be so generous. I love to give. I love to give. My whole desire for being successful is to be more generous in the world. And I want to see people step into their power, and my work lights me up so much. Being able to see that people can change, that fuels me. Evidence that we can change, that the world maybe can be a better place, that maybe we can pass down a world that is extremely hopeful and inspiring instead of dystopian. That lights me up. That fuels me. The possibility that it gets to get better instead of worse, that fuels me. And yeah, I think, I guess lastly, I would just say music. I can't overstate the importance of having a good playlist in your life, having multiple good playlists in your life.
Absolutely.
and yeah, like, let it be fun. We are not here to prove to everyone that maybe, just maybe, we can pull up a tiny seat at this gigantic table and maybe just like assimilate and conform and be a good girl, because the world doesn't change from all of us being good girls.
For real.
And honestly, the more women who step into their power and do make multi-millions of dollars, which I know you will, and I will be celebrating with you because I will be too.
Yeah.
And like, honestly, money and power in the hands of heart-centered people will move the world forward to a hopeful place that we're proud to pass down to our children, to your children, since I'm not having any. But I actually care about all the
You'll
children
have a million
so
children.
much.
Did you say 1,000 or a million?
Oh yeah, I told you that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I genuinely do care about the next generations and what kind of world are we passing down to them. And I think the only way we can pass down a world that is sustainable and thriving is when people who care and people who have ideas also know their power and know their worth. And so outside of like the things of rest and having fun and all of that stuff, the thing that fuels me is pouring myself into my most important work and believing that it matters. Like, write the book, do the podcast, start the business. It matters. It matters to do it.
It does. This has been so great. And like we could obviously talk for like a whole day and a half and then like take a quick little cat nap and then continue talking. But so you have your own podcast, the Boo podcast.
Yes, I just started it a month ago.
All about self-leadership and more good.
And thank you for listening to it.
Yes, I will listen and re-listen to prepare. And just so that like I wanted to get in touch. I had already listened kind of more passively, like because children and everything, just as things have been coming out. But then to be able to re-listen to kind of connect with our topic and you again, it was just really, really great. So the Boo podcast, I will link it in show notes or wherever it ends up going.
Thank you, love.
And all of your social, is all of your social media, there's like Moon Wild Studio, but then there's like a DJ one.
The only one to pay attention to is moon.wild.studio.
Perfect.
On Instagram.
Moon Wild Studio.
Yeah. And then on Facebook, I'm not good at keeping that one looking fresh.
Facebook's tricky.
Maybe that's an aspiration is to but
though?
usually I'm on Instagram and then sharing that to Facebook.
And your stories are always really fun to watch too, because they're just kind of like in real time conversations with you, just like this. And so really, truly be sure to go check out Steph wherever she is, moon.wild.studio and the Boo podcast if you really enjoyed this conversation. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is my first interview.
Yeah, I guess
You're my first.
Oh my gosh. It is such, I feel so, wow. Like I just can't believe that you picked me. I feel so loved.
You did. I haven't scheduled any. I like told everyone, I'm like, I'm gonna get back to you on dates and stuff because I don't know where anyone else is going.
Oh my god.
Because I was like, I want to talk to Steph first.
That's the thing. It's like we often don't take the first step because we can't see the whole entire path. Mm-hmm. And really, all it is do the next inspired action. That's it. Get the date on the calendar. Make the cover art. Send the thing.
Yeah.
Do the thing. See how that goes. Be inspired. Keep going. To be honest, I don't have a batch of episodes. I'm recording them. I'm editing them. I'm posting them all in real time. Like the day I'm recording or the next day. I'm just like, okay, the energy is alive. I'm doing it. I'm posting it. I'm not batching. I'm not doing any of that stuff that would be highly recommended.
Sure, but also like, I love that. Like, I wish that I could do that. And I have tried in the past to do that. And with my like neurospicy brain, I'm like, obviously I'm here. And then there'll be 2 months where I'm here. And like, instead of shaming her down here, I'm like, how can I take advantage of where my brain is at right now? Yeah. And like pour my creative
yourself
energy
up for success.
So that if I have 3 months where I can't do squat, like
stuff's
still going. And so it's like, there is no right way to forge forward.
Exactly. And you can get a lot of great advice from people who have gone where you want to go. And I encourage that too. And I'm still learning ways I could have done things better. But ultimately, I'm really happy that I just started, and I'm really happy for you that you started. And thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful. And honestly,
thank you for my worry stone.
Oh my gosh, you're welcome.
She's so warm now.
And I guess the last thing I want to say is just the thing you said in the beginning where you felt like, I get to sit with the cool kids. That's exactly how I feel right now. So that is how it is.
It's reciprocated.
We hold each other on these pedestals that are not real. So I would encourage anyone, if you feel like someone else is more perfect than you, like, just remember this conversation, and I guarantee you they're not.
Well, also just the people that you admire and love, and when you are in that, like, cycle of love, there's this kind of love that I didn't quite appreciate or understand the depth of until Anamkara. Of like, I hold all of these women in such high regard that I mention their names in rooms of like incredible people that I know. And like, you get to be one of my like action figures of cool people I've met. Like, like if I had a collection on a shelf of like, here's Steph and here's Lynn, here's Shalisa, and here's, you know, like, here's all my people.
Yeah, like Hannah calls them expanders, right?
Yeah.
It's sisterhood, it's friendship, but also more than that, because these are the people that expand us into our growth and our soulfulness. And Anamkara, you know, it means soul friend. And that's what we bring out in each other. And that's why you experience it to be different than a lot of the way the world is, where people are taught to keep it light, you know, taught to keep it surface.
Yeah.
And so there's some of us breaking the rules, saying, what if we didn't?
And for those of you who are local to Spokane, Washington, Anamkara is a really great place to be, and Stephanie teaches classes there, and I'll be sure to link that down below too. But also you can take your classes virtually too, right? Anamkara does virtual. So
Yes. Yep. You can join from anywhere in the world.
I'll link Anamkara, and you can join from anywhere. So I think we'll
Thank you
wrap it
for
up.
listening, everyone.
Thank you.
And keep following Alexis. She's amazing. And I know everyone she's going to have on the show is going to be amazing. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want it to end.
Thank you for tuning into this heartfelt, candid, and empowering conversation with Stephanie Sauvé Bouge. Her perspective is a beautiful reminder that our struggles aren't proof of failure. They're invitations to grow, soften, and step more fully into who we're meant to be. If this episode resonated with you, we'd love if you would subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who might need to hear it. Your support helps us bring these transformative conversations to more incredible women like you. Stay connected with Women Fueled wherever you get your podcasts, and visit It's Lex Butler for more tools, inspiration, and resources to fuel your mind, body, and spirit. As you move through your day, remember this: you are not here to be perfect. You are here to be real, to evolve, and to embrace every beautifully messy part of your own journey. Thank you so much for being here, for fueling this community with your energy, and for choosing to walk this path with intention. Until next time, take care, stay curious, and let joy guide you.